What if the most important character in Dr. Stone was never Senku, but the girl in the watermelon helmet who spent 7 years alone reverse engineering civilization for people who could not even thank her yet?
おはよう世界 Good morning world
Because on the surface, Dr. Stone presents itself as a story of a science genius rebuilding humanity. And that is a good story. It is a great story. But that is not the whole story. I almost dismissed the show entirely. On the surface, a series about a teenager rebuilding civilization from scratch with chemistry sounds like homework wearing a costume. I scrolled past it more than once. But there is a difference between a show that looks smart and a show that makes you feel smart. And one day I pressed play. That decision turned me stone for good. Here is what nobody warns you about going in. This show teaches you actual science, actual chemistry, physics, engineering, laid out in a way that respects your intelligence instead of taking down to it. There were moments I had to pause, rewind, sit with the concept for a few extra minutes before it clicked. This is not a show you passively absorb, but that friction is the point. A show that makes you work a little to understand it respects you more than one that handed you everything and asked for nothing back. That is rare. And once you feel it, you start looking for it everywhere else and rarely finding it. But if you want the part of the show that actually demands the 10 billion points, it is not the genius, it is not the science, it is the one character nobody expected to carry the weight she ended up carrying.
そうそるぜこれは
Now, on the surface, Soika starts as comic relief, scared, small, easy to overlook next to everyone louder around her. The girl in the watermelon helmet who stumbles into the frame and stumbles back out. And then, through circumstances completely outside her control, she becomes the only one standing. No mentor, no one to explain what to do next. Just years, alone, working, failing, and working again, trying to reverse engineer the exact process that could bring everyone else back. Think about what that actually requires. Not a moment of courage, not one dramatic decision made under pressure, years of showing up to an impossible problem with no guarantee it was even solvable, and no one dared to tell her she was getting closer. That is not comic relief, that is quiet and glamorous devotion repeated for so long it becomes the reason anyone else gets a second chance at life at all. Nobody hands her that growth. She earns every inch of it alone, in silence, long before anyone is around to witness it. And that right there is what makes Suika the axis this entire story rotates around. Because Dr. Stone is not writing her like a side character who gets a heroic moment. It is writing her like the proof that rebuilding civilization is not about who is the smartest, it is about who refuses to stop. What makes this even stronger is how the ending reinforces this exact idea. Because this is where the show could have taken the easy road and did not. Imagine the twist where the entire cause of humanity's fall was one villain, one mastermind, pulling every string from some hidden fortress. It would have been satisfying in the moment. It also would have made zero sense. No single human survives that many years, orchestrating that much control without the story bending reality to protect them. Instead, the answer removes the human ego from the equation entirely. Not a villain with a plan, a mechanism. Something without malice, without a face, without the need to be understood. And somehow that is more unsettling and more honest than any final boss could have been. And that is the genius of how the story handles the ending. It does not give you a monster to hate, it gives you a truth to sit with. That is a harder thing to write and a braver thing to commit to. But I think the ending was rushed. But then there is the choice of one Medusa the story's most complicated figures makes to stay behind, to collaborate, to help building something instead of leaving with everyone else in search of something greater out among the stars. On paper, that choice sounds absurd. Why would you stay on a planet everyone else decided was not worth it anymore? And this is where the Suika thread converges with everything else. Because that choice, to look at what is right in front of you, flawed and unfinished, and decide it is still worth building, is the same choice Soika made every single day for 7 years. The same refusal to abandon something just because no one else was there to validate the effort. The most intelligent thing you can do is to not keep searching for something better out there. It is to look at what is right in front of you and decide it is still worth building. I will not pretend I did not want more. There is a version of this story where Senku and Kohako, the romantic side, I wanted that ending too. I think a lot of us did. But I have made peace with it because his love for discovery was never a placeholder for something else missing in his life. It was the whole point. Some people are built to chase a person. He was built to chase an answer. And honestly, watching someone stay that certain of who they are for the entire runtime without ever needing anyone to complete him, that is its own kind of romance. So here is where I land. This is not a show about surviving an apocalypse. It is about the decision to rebuild anyway. Knowing it will take longer than one lifetime, knowing you might not see the finish line, and doing it because the alternative, giving up, was never really on the table. And that right there is what makes 10 billion points the only number that makes sense. It is not an exaggeration. It is the only number big enough to match a story about starting over from absolutely nothing and about the characters who proved, through years of silence and failure and impossible persistence, that choosing to build something worth leaving behind was never really a choice at all. It was who they were. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please hit the subscribe button and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.